Hey folks, Brian here. This Sunday, September 29th at 1 p.m. Pacific, we're going to be doing a live stream, but it's only for our Patreon supporters. So go to patreon.com/lateandnight to get access to that. Also, sign up at any tier to get access to video versions of the episodes, including today's with Victor Varnado. And if you're at the $5 a month or more tier, you get mini episodes. Are you tired of me saying this every week? I personally am not. Just because, look, I love talking to you. I'm going to be honest here. Fun episode today with an interesting guy. So check it out and go over to that Patreon. Patreon.com/lateandnight. Give context here, Leighton, because we were just about to, I think, have a good story, but you can't really say why.
Yeah. So sometimes when you work in a corporate environment, brand, there are people on a brand team that ensure that everything that you're doing meets the party line of what brand wants. And sometimes those notes can be a little silly.
Very diplomatic.
So much less interesting when you sanitize it like that.
Yeah, no, it really is.
There's stuff out there that's kind of annoying from someone.
I'd like to remain employed.
Yeah, and
That's
you have
really
been
funny.
very circumspect about your brand involvement recently, Leighton. Now, we're not going to say what it is, but yeah. If you have any reason, I can't say. I'm not, I haven't signed it. Actually, I could say, and I could, since I edit the show, I could even keep what I say in the show and really get you into trouble, which is a level of power I just realized I had.
The
and
fact
I'm
that
very
at any
excited
point
about.
they could completely flex on me by listening to this show, because certainly this show does not meet the standards of brand. Anyway, Victor,
This is actually interesting.
you had a
So
story.
I used to work for brands a lot. Okay, I used to work for brands all the time, and when I kind of changed the way that I work, like the way that I work now is I tell brands, I'm doing this. Do you want to come in on it? Rather than me going to the brands and the brands like, we want this. Will you make it? Which is the way that I used to work, which is when I was subject to exactly what you're subject to. Like I did this show with Facebook and Penguin Random House called the Great Fantasy Debate. And the way that it came about, it's a game show where we had famous sci-fi and fantasy authors paired with comedians, and then they would debate over like, is it better to be part of the Empire or part of the Rebellion? Okay. And then there was so much stuff that you couldn't say, and we were like writing these jokes. We were writing jokes like for them to say to each other about the Empire and Rebellion, or about Flat World or Discworld or whatever. And then, but yeah, there was just like so much constraint
Because from Facebook or from the brands you were from, like you were afraid Lucasfilm was going to come after you or something, or both.
Well, first of all, Penguin Random House, and these were their authors.
Oh, it's all their authors. Okay,
Their
got it.
authors. Their authors, like the guy who wrote. There's the biggest guy was the guy who wrote. It's this famous detective story, but he's like a magician. He's like a detective, and it's like it became a TV show.
Oh, the Cast a Deadly Spell? Is it?
No, it's not Cast a Deadly Spell, but it's some guy who wrote a thing. He has got blue hair. He's in the trailer, but I forgot. He's in the trailer. He's doing like a Smeagol voice in the trailer but I forgot what his name was. But whatever.
I think we're talking about Detective Pikachu.
No. And you knew it wasn't Detective Pikachu
you know what,
2.
Victor, you got me. I did know that.
Yeah, but anyway, so like there were things that we could and couldn't say about characters, and because we were making fun of so many brands, and it was two big brands who were on top of it. They're just like a lot of choking. Of our,
Do you remember
any
any particular jokes that got cut from that you really wanted to say?
No, I don't remember any jokes that got cut. I know jokes got cut and they were funny, but I don't remember because like when you're
I'm sure you're
when
just
you're on a show
generating
writing, you're writing
Yeah.
so many jokes.
Right.
Like there's no way there. Oh my gosh, I can actually tell you this, and you can even look this up. Okay, so I was because now that I work for brands differently, I can just spill all the tea on all the brands.
Yes,
that I work
please.
with. So I was working for True TV on the show Hack My Life. Do you remember that show? Did you ever see that show?
Yes, I do remember the show. I don't think I ever
So
saw it, but I remember it being a thing. Yeah.
I was a producer on Hack My Life, and then the guy who hired me, the executive producer, I forget what his name was, but they hired me specifically because I was funny. Okay, and then one time we were reviewing some footage, and it was hacks about like continuing to exercise when you're older. And then the first cut they showed of this clip of them talking about older people exercising had all of these older people exercising, and then they put in these sound effects of like creaking, like like them, and then I was like, hey, that's not funny. You should take that out. Like we shouldn't put that in there and send it to the network. That's not cool. And then the producer was like, I think it's pretty funny. And then I was like, hey, remember when you hired me and you said you hired me specifically because I had a really good sense of humor?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is not funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm going to leave it in. So he left it in. He left it in. And then when the notes came back from the network, their biggest note at the top was like, this isn't funny. This is demeaning to old people, blah, 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 blah. And then he said that they said that note. And then he looked at me. He looked at me, and then I was just like kept writing in my notebook like nothing was happening.
Yeah. Deliberately not
and then
making
they
eye
cut
contact.
my contract short. Nice,
great.
Yeah, being vindicated in that way when you tell somebody like, do not do that, it's going to be bad. People will be upset, and then people get upset, but then also it's kind of, you're, at least in the cases where it's happened to me, where it's like, great, now I have to stand behind this. I guess I didn't want this.
Yeah, he was like such a big ass all the time, get over and over again. I forget what his name was, but he did asinine things like that multiple times. Where I would like say something to him, like we were cutting together a trailer for the season, and then I was cutting together a trailer with an editor, but then somebody got sick, and then somebody had to oversee a shoot, and he's like, "Hey, will you go oversee this shoot and just give the editor your notes?" And then and then I was like, I can't be at the shoot and oversee the trailer cut very well at all, and then so at the end of the day, I was like, and I knew he was like such like how some people you can't like show them something that's half done.
Yeah. Oh,
because
yes.
they flip out.
Yes.
And so I was just like, hey, man, I was like, hey, I was at the shoot all day. The editor did some work on the trailer. It's not where I want it to be yet. So why don't you just skip it and we'll talk, I'll show you a cut tomorrow. And then he was like, okay. And then the next day I came in, he was like, hey, I watched the trailer. What the hell? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I just told you. And I was like, I was at work at the site. Like, how could I possibly oversee the trailer? And then he finally calms down after I told him exactly the same thing I told him the day before. And then at the end of the day, the trailer was great. And so,
right.
Man, I'm so glad I'm out of there.
I've struggled with this thing. It's so interesting to me how some brains cannot see an unfinished thing and understand that it's part of a process. You know what I mean? Like, I think about that. Yeah, most of what I do is music. And there's some people, if you send them like a scratch track, even, with like temp stuff in or whatever, they'll be like, this is bad. The sounds are blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, it's not fucking done. It's supposed to be. It's like, do you like the, do you like the words? Do you like the core, the general vibe of it? I'm not looking for this is bad yet. Like, because of some thing that's going to get dialed in later.
I think it takes a special skill to be able to tell when you're like knowing what level of notes to give at any point. And when you get somebody who does not understand what level of note you're looking for, which it's very easy to specifically ask, like, hey,
Layton.
this is at a stage where I only want to hear like big structural things if there are issues. This is not the nitpick stage. And then it's like, here's 10 pages of nitpicks. Like, okay, well, yes,
Yeah,
I agree
exactly.
with you. All of these things, I agree with you. That's why it's not done. That's why I told you.
People don't understand that we as artists are the joy and breath of existence, and they
right.
need to walk lightly
Underappreciated.
around us.
Well, the issue being when it's other artists that give you these notes, you're like,
yeah.
hey, let's chill out. For music, a lot of this is like you're sending someone a pre-mix. You know, if do we need to layer more stuff in? Do we need more instruments or whatever? And they start giving, well, I think this should be louder and this should be softer. We need to pan this over to the left. It's like, no. We're not talking about that yet. I don't need that note. I'm not interested in that note.
I think as people have different like levels of process, right? Like, so some people, because I've experienced this before. I came up in the performance art world in New York, and then so some of the performance artists I know are some of the most talented people I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then when I started kind of like taking my art and like, you know, working in the corporate world, I was like trying to bring some artists over sometimes, and some could not hack it in like the world where you have like sit right here and make art about this specific thing, you know,
Right.
and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
knowing how to sell out well, and sell out is not the right term, but you know, it's I like making art. I also like making art within strict parameters that makes me money. So, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's nice to pay rent.
no, I agree.
stuff.
I like making art, but I also loathe making art for other people now. Like, I loathe it. Like, I can't. I just and it took a long time to like really start getting into the other way around, where it's like I'm the artist and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build up myself as like the artist, like the guy who does cool shit, and I want the brands to be like, oh, we want to work with you because you make such cool things.
We need a real Victor Varnado type.
That's what I want. That's exactly what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And it's a tough road, let me tell you.
And there is something about like corporate art making when it's within such tight parameters that like once you clock out or finish something, it personally gives me so much more energy to write or make the other depraved shit that I want to be doing. It's like, all right, I've spent all day writing G-rated content. Let's go.
I mean, but think about Beyonce. Like, Beyonce is an artist who brands come to and they want to do stuff with her. And yes, we're not Beyonce yet, but you know, there's a whole world of doing that exact same thing on many different levels, you know, before you're Beyonce.
Yeah. I legitimately, I've never, you know, so most of what I do is just my own stuff. It's all like self-financed, you know, indie kind of stuff. And we're lucky because we're, for my main projects, we're very YouTube based and have a you know, a fan community there, including on this podcast. It's all done just us. I have literally no idea. I've never been approached by a brand or anyone else to like make a thing for them. So how does this happen? Like, how do people get these? How did you guys get these gigs? How do people find out about you? And, you know, do you have agents? I'm just curious. Like, how does this work in practice for you? Or Victor, are you at a point now where, I mean, you've been doing what you're doing for a long time. People know who you are and then come to you. But is this people sending you emails through an agent? How does it work?
I can tell you how it works for me now, but I haven't really been doing it for a long time. So up until like 7 years ago, I was just working for other people, period. That's all I did. And then I had basically that moment in my life where I was like, no, what am I doing? And I did that while I was working on the Love and Hip Hop franchise as a producer.
Oh, wow.
I was like, at that point, I was like, I am just making crap. I am making the world worse. I was like so sad. I mean, I was paid well, but super sad about it.
Yeah.
So then in between then and now, I just been studying just like business and just like trying to figure out how can I turn what I like to do into a business.
Yeah.
And so the way that I get people to pay for me now is I go to them and say, I'm doing this thing. Do you want in on it?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. I will reach out to people at brands who have marketing budgets, and I'll be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to do it? And they'll be like, no. And I'm like, do you want to do it? And they'll be like, no. And they're like, do you want to do it? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, awesome, let's go.
So, but how are you even, you don't have to talk about this if this is too inside baseball. Actually, you know what? We're going to introduce the show right here. Everybody,
Wow.
This is Late Night with Brian Wecht. My name is Brian Wecht. Across from me, we have Leighton Gray.
Leighton Gray, Corpo Shill, mystery guest. Who are you?
Yeah. I'm Victor Varnado, also I'm not a corporate shill. What am I?
Former corporate show.
Reformed Corpo Shill?
Former corporate shill, current punk art dynamo.
Love it.
Great. Where, if people know you, where might they know you from?
Well, I guess I'm a New Yorker cartoonist. I had a pretty famous New Yorker cartoon. I am a comedian. I've been on Conan and Jimmy Kimmel Live back when there was a Conan. You know, I was on that. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
still use it as credit.
Same. Yeah. I think we were the last band Conan had on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Before they moved from an hour to half an hour. I think we were
Man,
the last. act.
NSP
Yeah.
killed Conan. You heard it here first.
Hell yeah, we did.
And I have an off-Broadway show called NYC Talent Show. That's on hiatus now, but reopening in October at Second City in New
Fun.
York.
Yeah, great.
And I'm trying to make the world's biggest video game competition right now.
Yes. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that as we get into it.
I also am King Supernuts, the greatest rapper and the greatest rapper and product pitchman of all time.
Great. I love it.
I created a hip hop character that does pitches and hip hop.
This I didn't know about yet. I'm very,
You didn't know it?
No, I didn't know about King Supernuts. Well, there's something else. Look, we need to get this out of the way because if I don't say it, I will feel bad. You were my wife's improv instructor when she was in high school, briefly, and
now she is the most famous improviser.
that's
She
right.
learned
and
so much.
She credits it all to you. No, when my wife Rachel was a student at Holy Angels in or near Minneapolis. I think it's
Holy Angels. Okay,
I think Richfield is actually where it is. I literally just got back from Minneapolis yesterday. And when I mentioned we were having you on the show, she was like, wait a minute. Victor taught my comedy sports class in high school. So
Amazing.
yeah.
And that's why I don't remember her very much, because I was trained not to fraternize with kids.
Of course. Yes. Very wise. Yes, indeed.
I would teach class and I would leave.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, she's a couple years younger than me, and I think I'm 49. Rachel is, I think, 46, 47. You're a few years older, I think.
Yeah, I'm 55.
55. So yeah, that's a significant age gap anyway. Like, so they were legitimately children, and you're in your mid 20s or something at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I didn't know that high schools had comedy classes.
I didn't. I mean, some do, I guess. But that was a thing through comedy sports that you went to local high schools and taught improv, or what?
Yeah, we would go to. So comedy sports. The reason that they did that, or how they did that, I don't know. Do you know about what their business plan is? Sort of like
No.
Comedy Sports does their shows and they appeal to high school students. High school students love to see comedy sports because it's like something that they can go see that's really, really funny and you don't have to drink. And then so because high school students love comedy sports so much and they keep coming to comedy sports, then comedy sports reaches out to those high schools to say, hey, these kids love us. Do you want us to teach a comedy class there? And then they make money that way.
And it is, am I remembering, so Comedy Sports is a very particular type of short form improv, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's got its own
It's
deal.
very like high speed, quick jokes, blah, 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 short form improv. And then like a lot of long form improv people are like, we hate Comedy Sports. You're the devil.
Yeah, right.
I got in a fight over Comedy Sports about long form and short form where Matt Besser like wouldn't speak to me for years.
That seems
I
like
wrote
a
an article.
point of pride, honestly. You wrote what, like an article saying bad things about long form or what?
No, I just pointed out how long form and short form improv like did basically the same shit.
Yeah.
like they'd do a long form game, a long form show, and it would just basically be short form tricks but done in long form. And I was just like, this is the same thing. These are the same things. And I would just point from show to show to show. These are the same things. These are the same things. These are the same things. Everybody, please stop fighting.
Yes.
And then Matt Besser wouldn't speak to me because he said I was calling him a hypocrite because I used his show as one example.
He seems like he's relatively easy to piss off, though, from what I understand.
It was really easy for me to piss him off because I didn't know I was doing it.
Yeah.
And then I just did it. I probably just did it again. Like when this goes to air, like if he hears it, he'll be like, oh, that's it. Or maybe he won't.
He is indeed a faithful listener to this show.
Yeah, that's right. He's on our Discord all the time, chiming in. I have never understood this either. Why people just trying to be funny and do stuff. Why can't everyone just enjoy everything? It's not which is better. They're both great for what they are.
I'm sure
Who
you
cares?
look down your nose at something. Come on.
Let's see.
I do. I'll admit that there's performances and things I've seen. I'm like, ugh, what is this?
Well, for sure, but it's not innate. What I'm saying is not innately long form or short form, right? There are definitely things where I'm like, are we really fucking doing this? And there's some things that are so overplayed that it just seems hacky, but not intrinsic to how long what kind of game you're doing or whatever, whether it's long form or short form.
Yeah, it's like I agree. There's no real way to. There's no real structure that is better.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
There's no real structure that is better.
Well,
there are jokes that are terrible. Like
yes,
I remember once that I got to the point where anytime I saw a movie where a character said, "I think I just threw up in my mouth," I bailed on that movie.
What is it like the Workaholics writers room whiteboard that was viral on Twitter? I want to say in like 2016 or something.
I don't know this.
Jokes we're not doing, and I just threw up in my mouth a little. So many funny. Other just like hacky things. Like it is such a great image, and the fact that in 2024 those jokes are still in circulation. It really
because it was a good joke when it first came out. It was great.
Yeah.
I've been trying to find for years now. I couldn't even tell you when. Maybe 5 years ago, I think Paul F. Tompkins retweeted someone's list. It was like 3 pages of stupid cliches that people just said on Twitter. And if I really wanted to, I could dive back through every tweet he ever tweeted or retweeted and find it. But I don't have that kind of time or ability. And well, actually, I do have the ability to do that. I'm not going to talk negatively about myself. But it was such a great list of like cliches that everybody uses but are terrible, and they're terrible. And the moment you read one, you're like, I'm kind of done with this person. And I've been trying to find this forever.
I'm looking at the Workaholics banned phrases board. I can explain. Let's not and say we did. I didn't not blank. Wait for it. Just threw up in my mouth is on there. And by X I mean Y. That's not a thing. Just lots of.
Oh yeah, that's not a thing. That's a good one.
Yeah, he's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, I do want to. So I think
funny. I'm gonna make a video about this now because I want to take it and turn that into a video and just tell everybody don't do these jokes anymore.
Don't do these things.
Take it from the Workaholics thing about. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I'm gonna drop that link in the private chat.
Victor, I'm going to publicly credit you with my marriage because after high school, Rachel continued doing improv and was at Brave New Workshop for a while, and then moved to Boston and was a main stager at the Improv Asylum, where I joined as a musician and then shortly after music director. And I think if you had not inspired her love of comedy in high school, she would have not continued to Boston, where we would have met. And now we have been married for 17 years. All thanks to you.
Well, I take that credit, and as payment, I'd like your firstborn.
Great. You know what? Sure. Have fun. And good luck.
Not getting along, are you?
It's she's 10 and a half. She is our only born, not only our firstborn, also our last born. Most likely, I guess.
And the
theoretically
Dragonborn?
things could change, but so far, for the 10 and a half years has been our last born. But yeah, have fun. Let's see how long that lasts.
She loves swearing now, which
Yes.
is my favorite
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, she texted me "fuck you" the other day as a little joke, which I thought was very funny. What I like about it is she is getting into a very swearing forward phase, but she doesn't quite know how to work it yet. So she'll say things like, "What is this fucking shitting thing?" And it's like, well, you're close, but the nuances aren't quite there. So you can see it's fun to watch her try it out. Do you have kids, Victor?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not have kids. I am 55, and I am thinking about actually adopting at this point. So
Love that for you.
Yeah.
me and the missus, we have plans to adopt a kid that is already talking, and you can like have a conversation, so we can skip the nasty parts.
Yep. Yep. There's some nasty stuff.
Valid.
That's for
See if
sure
we can
true.
skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are
Speed
so
run
many
this kid.
so many existing children who could use a good place to be. I think that's a great thing.
We were talking about something before I introduced the show, and I can't remember what it was, but it was going to be really good. I do remember
Some
that.
sort of setup, but I wanted to ask in this discussion about long form and short form comedy, I want to talk about even shorter form in how did you get into doing cartoons, and more specifically for the New Yorker? How did that start for
That's
you?
easy. Well, when I had my breakdown at when I had my breakdown, for a minute I was like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then like for a second I was like, I should kill myself. And then I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. What do people get when they think they should kill themselves? Like, what do they think they're getting? And then I was like, oh, they think they're getting freedom. And then so I was like, okay, so what I really want is freedom. What is holding me back? And then one of the things that has always held me back was that I always thought I was clever, but I was too afraid to like do shit. Like, I mean, I'd done a lot. Like at that point I'd been in movies and blah, 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 blah. But trust me, there was a lot that I wasn't doing because I was too afraid. Mm-hmm. And then one of the things was I was always looking at New Yorker cartoons, and I have a friend who's a New Yorker cartoonist, and I was like always going over to her house and drawing with her. And she was like, you could be a New Yorker cartoonist. And I was like, yeah, I could be a New York cartoonist. Never tried. Mm-hmm. And then so right after I had that life-changing epiphany, I was like, okay, I'm going to do all of those things. If I can find the only reason that I'm not doing something is because I'm scared or with anxiety, then I'll just do it.
Yes.
And then I started doing stuff. And one of the first things I did was like, okay, I'm going to be a New Yorker cartoonist. And then my friend Karen, she was like, hey, I'll take you in. And then she helped me do my first pitch to the New Yorker.
That's
and
so
I
great.
went in and did my first pitch, and
In person? That's like you go to
I
the
did
building.
my first pitch in person. This was before the pandemic, and when I did my first pitch, the cartoon editor Emma Allen, she picked 2 out of the 10 that I'd brought, and she was like, "I'm bringing them to the editor." And I was like, "Oh my god, my first pitch!" And then I went out to Karen, and I was like, "Karen, I think they're buying 2 cartoons from me. I just did my first pitch." And Karen was like, "Oh my god, I'm so happy for you." That's what Karen said. And then a week went by, nothing happened. And then I was like, what happened? And then Karen was like, oh, well, they take them to the editor, and the editor decides whether or not they actually go in. So, I was like, why didn't you tell me that last week? I told my mom. And she was like,
Any day now.
You seem so happy. And I was like, really? Karen.
Yeah.
And then it took a year and about 100 more submissions.
Right.
And then I actually got one in.
Uh-huh.
And then I got another one in. And by the time I had a third one sold, I was like, okay, now I'm a New Yorker cartoonist.
Yes.
What was the first one that you got it?
The first one that I got in was actually a cartoon based on a real thing that happened in a bar near my house. And it's a cartoon where there's a older white man talking to a younger black guy, and the older white man is saying to the younger black guy, "How would you like some unsolicited advice?"
That's
because
great.
that happened.
Oh, yeah.
In the bar that I love dive bars, and you get quite the people who love to tell you a few things.
Right, of course.
Yeah. That exact interaction is probably happening somewhere on Earth like once every 60 seconds.
Yeah, at
I
least.
believe it.
Yeah.
So when you do the cartoons, do you do them digitally or are you like pen and ink?
I do both, but most of the time I do digitally for finishing, and sometimes I do digitally for starting.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Do you do Photoshop, Procreate?
I use Clip Studio Paint, which is
Very nice.
the more pro one for cartoonists.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
Very specific.
Are there New Yorker cartoonists in particular that you were a fan of? Because I have I very much grew up with this sort of I've been a Roz Chast fan forever, as far as I can remember. But are there particular people that you've always liked in the New Yorker?
No, actually, because I actually did not know New Yorker cartoonists. I happened to have a friend who was a New Yorker cartoonist. I wasn't a person who was like a real fan of the New Yorker. Mm-hmm. And I also didn't follow the cartoonists necessarily, but I looked at the cartoons themselves. Mm-hmm. But right now, I'm a big fan of Jason Chatfield because he's just like an amazing renderer. He's like really, really an amazing renderer. I think that he is like, I think that he could like use some help joke writing in general, but his rendering is the bomb. It's amazing. It's so good.
That's great.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this lovely little grayscale watercolor.
Oh yeah, look at these. These are great.
Yeah, he's an amazing renderer. He's so good.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Crazy.
I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, I love it. Feels like for this like single panel thing. I mean, the New Yorker is like that's the big leagues, right? That's about as big time as you can get for this style of cartooning.
That's what Karen said to me. Karen was like, "This is like starting out comedy and getting on Saturday Night Live immediately."
Yes. I mean, I'm trying to think of another place that has this, and I mean, there's like editorial cartoons, but that's kind of a separate thing. I can't think of any other place that is still like doing these regularly.
Have you always been drawing or interested in cartooning? Like, were you a kid who was drawing a lot?
Yes, I was a kid. I was drawing a lot of dragons, skulls, robots as well.
Very good.
Ladies, a lot of ladies, scantily clad.
Me too.
I remember once I drew for we had our shows, like our art shows at our school, because I was at an art school. And then one time I did an entire stipple painting of a naked woman looking out of a window in a castle where a dragon was flying by.
Hell yeah.
I didn't even realize like what a stupid boy fantasy that was at the time. I was like, here's my artwork.
Did you ever get the intervention from like well-meaning adults about your art of being like, are you okay because of the subject matter? I feel like this is such a many artists I know have
all.
gotten. Okay.
No, nobody. I would just draw. I did one time. I was stopped because I was reading a short story that I had written in class, and I get stopped because it was a horror short story where the monsters were all the teachers, and then and it was really gory, and then they made me stop reading it in class.
Wait, Layden, I feel like you got well-meaning adults concerned with your art as a child. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I'm. Yes, of course I did.
I think you have well-meaning.
What were they doing? Why?
Yeah.
I was drawing little creatures, and this was in the wake of like my nana dying, so I think my behavior was under a microscope of Layton's really into drawing little creatures, which was
You're
because I had
how
watched,
old?
I don't know, like 8.
Okay.
Because I was really into Lilo and Stitch at the time, so I was drawing my own little aliens. And it's like, is this a manifestation of grief? Like, yeah, totally, sure. But with my writing, also is the same. I remember I wrote this thing for my quote unquote gifted and talented class, which is most certainly not called that anymore. That was a story about like couple of girls getting locked in a mall overnight, you know, the classic. It was very from the mixed up files of Mrs. Baisley, Frank Weiler coded of like, oh, you're stuck in a cool place and you get to like run around. But like one of the plot points was that like a girl hit her head and passed out. And then I believe one of my parents took issue with that. And so very pettily, like we were supposed to present this on poster board. And so at the bottom, I wrote really big, probably bigger than the story, disclaimer, no one was actually harmed in the writing of this story. It's like, God, that's such a bitchy thing for an 8-year-old to do.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. So that is why I ask.
No, I was just free to do whatever it is I wanted to do.
That's great. Hey, dragons and naked ladies. It's living.
It was dragons and naked ladies. I was like, here we go. And they were like, great job. And then, but eventually I just grew out of it because I think maybe they did intervene by what they complimented, like what they were like, what they encouraged, because eventually, like when I graduated, I was doing like stuff that was like way more abstract and just interesting subject matter. I would have like art parties where, you know, we would I still have art parties actually, which are really fun. Everyone should have an art party.
They're the best.
Yeah, art supplies, and we have like hourly themes. So like 1 hour is
What
like
a great
robots.
idea.
Yeah, and then you just draw, and then I usually, after an art party, I will usually frame most of the art and then just put it on my walls, and it'll be like kids art next to an artist's art, and it's great. It's really fun.
That's
and it's great for your
fantastic.
house.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, getting to sit with other people while you draw is like one of my all-time favorite hangouts. And with as far-flung as all of my friends are these days, I always forget the name of it, but it's the website where it's like Photoshop, but you can collaborate in real time.
Oh yeah, what is that
Is
called?
so. It's like I think the name changed, but it's awesome. I will hang out with friends such as Erin, and I will draw girls, and then Erin will immediately draw fan art of that girl right next to my girls, and it's really cute.
That's pretty great.
I had these animators that I used to do that with, and they were all so good. They were like so good. And I'm like serviceable. Like when I started, one of the things happened when I started the New Yorker, I was not really that great of a renderer, and then I just forced myself to just practice and become a better renderer because I was a good joke writer.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I had to learn how to like draw better. And then when I was working with these guys, like they drew so much, they were all just so good and it was so intimidating, but I kept going back because of my role.
Were you like a comic strip guy growing up, like in the newspapers? I was very into that stuff as a child.
I was into comic books, definitely. But not comic strips. Yeah, not comic stripped as much. I loved comic books though. I was like a huge fan of comic books. Mm-hmm. And I was a huge fan of superhero comic books, and then I got into like weirder comics later. And I love indie comics, but it's hard going through indie comics sometimes because like I think that people who will tell you an indie comic is amazing, they'll be like, this indie comic is amazing. They give it a lot of they give it
leeway,
a wide berth
maybe. Yes.
as to what is amazing. They're just like and so like it's hard to find stuff that's like truly fantastic.
This is I feel somewhat of a hot take, but I also 100% agree with you. Like I think people
I think it's true because I think
it is true.
Because indie comics, like they're not like honed to perfection by a team of people.
Right.
And so to find one that is actually just like amazing is hard sometimes. Yeah.
Also, that was literally my major was sequential art, and I
really?
Yeah, I may have dropped out of art school 2 years in, but yeah, that was what I really, really wanted to do for a while. And then I think you have to have.
Well, and then you wanted to start this podcast, so you dropped out of art school.
Yeah,
so
dropped
we
everything,
could do
came out
this,
here
yeah.
to start this
Yeah.
podcast. I don't do anything else. The podcast is my only thing.
As well, it should be.
But I just think you need to have a really specific brain to have the patience to do something where this might take you 3 years to draw and write for something that somebody can read in like less than 30 minutes. And I do not have the brain required to make comics like that as much as I enjoy a good one.
Can I tell you
Yeah.
that, and I will tell you that I am, so I actually believe the exact same thing about sequential art, like just how, like, I hate that it takes so long to make, but I love it, and I love
Yeah.
making it too. And that's why I'm really excited about, I like to produce things in such a way that it's repeatable for me. So I like to come up with a production process for my art. Sometimes if it's something that I have to make a lot, like podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was working on a way to do it with sequential art so that I could, I wanted to tell the story in a very specific way. And what I came up with is I just want to do 3 like movie panels per page and then draw whatever I want. And it will always be like movie panel pages, and then tell stories like that, and then also then do just text to the side of them, so I don't have to do bubbles, and I can just
nice.
describe and then just like make it like a narrative plus pictures, but it's just like a different way of presenting it. And then I can probably do sequential art if it's like a very systematic way. But because what I really want to do is I want to tell a story. I don't necessarily have to be like I want to make the most amazing sort of panel flow possible, and I know that that's part of sequential art and it can be amazing, but
Yeah.
I don't care. I just want to tell my stories.
This is what I always
Yeah.
like, and this is the very extreme version of this, is dinosaur comics. Do you know that strip?
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing every time, right? The art never changes, and then it's just filling in stuff. But I think in the best possible version of that. I don't even know if it's still going. I haven't read it in many, many years. But yeah, I always admired his Ryan North. Is that who does it? His ability to just like have a constraint and write to that.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. I think what I always got mired in was being too cute about formatting, because if I, like, when I was having to do comics constantly for school, I would get very tricksy with like what counts as a panel and doing like weird gimmicky Chris Ware style things, and I think it just bogs down my ability to do stuff. I don't know. I'm like mid 20s art existential crisis. So what you were saying earlier, Victor, about, you know, the what am I doing? You know, like what do I actually want? That is kind of where my headspace is now. So I feel very weird about visual art at the moment. But anyway.
Well, it's fun to watch you go through it. So
It really, you know what? I've known Leighton for, well, how long? We've known each other for
7 years.
7-ish years now.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching you go through crises. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks. It's usually pretty funny when they happen.
You know what? I didn't want to be the one to say it, but you're 100% right. It is
No, but
extremely
because when
funny.
I have a crisis, they're always like absurdist in a fun way. like I jumped off my roof and I broke a bunch of bones. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm
this
stupid.
is, well, yeah, Leighton recently had one of the biggest cell phones I think I've ever had a friend accomplish, which is
Yeah.
jumping off a roof to get down, not for bad reasons,
Yeah.
but and then landed weird and broke
Yeah.
some foot stuff.
Yeah,
What?
this happened the last day of March. I've been walking since maybe June. It's been a whole thing. So if you ever feel like going up on a roof without a ladder, don't jump down.
Yeah.
It's not good. Now my foot is like fully RoboCopped out. I'm full of metal. I'm gonna set off X-rays until the end of time.
wow,
Living
yeah, you
large.
change your body forever.
Yeah.
I do want to talk
cyberpunk of
about
me.
it is. Well, speaking of cyberpunk, wow, look at this, Leighton. That's perfect because I
What?
want to talk about video games.
Okay, well,
because we
I was
were
trying to show off my
we
Cyberpunk
mentioned
chair,
him
but that didn't really work.
briefly before. So I want to hear, Victor. I know we mentioned it briefly before. So you're doing a cool video game thing, but as when I was looking at your website, you mentioned Robotron 2084, and I want to hear all about the video games you were into as a kid, because I suspect we're similar enough ages that I think we have a lot of the same kind of gaming experience.
That's very possible. Robotron was the first game that like blew off the back of my head. That was because I loved video games up until that point. But Robotron was the first game where so much sensory input that I was just like, it's like I was like mainlining sugar. It was great. It was amazing. I loved it so much. It was just joy.
Yes.
and then that is what changed video games for me. Robotron, what year did Robotron come out? I don't know. But then,
I mean, I guess also, 82, 3?
Great.
Does that sound about right?
Up. Maybe. I'm not sure at all. It's
if
a great ramp up because my favorite movie, of course, is Tron.
Yes,
the original Tron, which is 85. And then so like at that time was like I was peak joy of computers and video games. And
82. Looked it up. It's 82.
It was what, 82?
Yeah.
That was a great guess. Like wow.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
I don't think when did Robotron come out? I don't think anybody could come up with that number like you did. Amazing.
Not everybody's Brian Wack, baby.
Thank you for calling me baby. And
yeah, of course.
So Robotron was that first game, and there's other games that I loved a lot. Like I really did. Of course, I was a big fan of Space Invaders and all that when that originally came out, and I was like so young, and we would sneak out of the house and go to the arcade, steal quarters from Dad.
You got to, yep,
and play.
And this is where are you as a kid this age?
Well, this was actually this was my dad and mother were separated. So in this case, I was stealing quarters from my mom's jar because it was single mom stole money from my single mother.
Yeah,
and went to play.
Cool
video
guy
games.
move. Yeah, yes.
Kids are terrible.
Yeah, again, I'll repeat the offer. You can have mine if you want her.
It's just because like when you're a kid, you're not thinking, oh, my single mother's struggling, blah blah blah, and then a few dollars missing here and there won't matter. You don't think that.
No, you think everything's free, and and if it goes away, we'll just something. It'll be fine. We'll get another one probably.
Mom, if you listen to this, I love you.
And
Anyway,
Audrey,
so we go to the
Audrey, if you're listening to this, you have a new dad waiting for you across the country.
Congrats.
Yeah.
So then, Robotron was a big one. I remember there's another game that came out that I really liked, which was one of the vector games. When they came out with the Star Trek all vector game, where you would sit down in Star Trek. Yeah, it was a Star Trek vector game.
I don't remember this.
And you
one.
would sit down. Yeah, it was awesome. It was so good. You'd sit down it was like one of those games where you sit down inside of it.
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Now I remember this one. Yes. Great.
Yeah, you sit down inside that game and you would play, and it had the knobs that you could spin to move around. It was so much fun.
Right.
That game was great. I currently have a favorite game of all time right now,
which is
Shadow of the Colossus. That game is amazing.
Classic. Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah, it's such a work of art. It's badass. It's so good. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of just games. But most of the games that I like to play were like single experiences. Like it's just you and the game. It's not really like multiplayer stuff. I do like multiplayer games too, but I think that I just like playing games by myself and having them be awesome.
I'm fully. That's exactly my experience. I actually don't like multiplayer, generally speaking, unless it's with a group of friends I know doing a specific thing. Like in college, I'd do a lot of Quake with like a set group of people, but I have actually zero interest in like logging on to whatever with a bunch of people I don't know and doing stuff. I never want to do it. I just want to do my own my own thing at my own pace all the time, pretty much.
I used to play Gears of War with anybody. I would just log on. I would play it so much that like there were just groups of people you would always run into.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of a wild card because I wouldn't adhere to anybody's rules because they have clans and things like that, and I just did not care.
Yeah. Did you do like PC gaming growing up, like adventure games or anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love PC gaming. I was the originals like Zork and things like that, where it was just like text based. I loved those.
I loved those. I could talk about Infocom games all day, any day. They're my favorite.
This is crazy. Okay, so I have a grant from the National Science Foundation because I've created software that helps people with disabilities play video games. And the way the software works is it interprets what's on the screen and turns it into a text exchange. So then so think about like with Zelda, the old versions of Zelda, you could just go up, down, left, right, sword, blah, 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 blah. And so that's easy to bind to phrases. And then, or you can bind a series of actions to phrases like go get the pot or things like that. And then so when I was creating this software, I used the engine for Zork as a model.
No way.
Because Zork was the first game where it was like natural language, and you could just write a natural language, and then they parsed that out and then turned that into actions. And because I was trying to make a system that would work, it'll work on any phone, it'll work on any computer, because everybody has text to speech and on their computers right now. And it doesn't use AI. So like it can retrofit any hardware into something that a person with disabilities can use.
Wow.
And
cool.
so I'm working on it right now.
Wow.
But Zork was the key.
I did all the, I mean, almost, I think I played maybe all but like 5 Infocom games. I had them all. I was obsessed with that, with those
You're
text
going to love
adventures.
this new game that I'm working on, because what it is, it's like I'm working on a new game where just like AI creates Infocom style games for you. But it also has voice acting and sound effects.
Neat.
Wow,
and you can play it on like any device that, like, you could play it on an Alexa or something like that.
Yeah, I've been curious. What I don't actually see too many text adventure. People must be making them. I'm sure it's kind of a boutique item in some respects, as many
I
indie
feel like
games
if you
are
pop
now.
on like itch.io, there are a billion
Yes,
of them.
probably.
I think
yeah.
it's a thing that I think about a lot with modern game development, that like exposure to games really comes down to like, how streamable is this? How clippable is this? Where something like Dream Daddy is incredibly streamable and was designed to be that way. Homebody is a lot of ready, thinky stuff.
Well, for context, do you want to tell?
For
Victor
context, I co-created and co-wrote Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, and I also co-wrote the psychological horror game Homebody, available now wherever you get your games.
I'm going on getting these games for shows.
Layden's game, Dream Daddy, which he co-created, was a legitimate like indie video game hit in 2017.
What is it? I'll find out how you play. I was like, how do you play it? But like, I'm going to go find out.
Yeah, they're on Steam, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, all that good stuff.
Would you be interested in taking one of your games and turning it into, because I don't know how you would do this, so I do these high score competitions. And so I'm really looking for people who have games of note that we could make a high score edition that people could compete on around the world. And then, because then I can get a sponsor to pay for it all. And everybody can make money, and then everybody would play your game. Because that's what I'm doing right now. And
love money.
Right now I'm doing it only with games that I've created, but then I've also found like games that are in the public domain, like 2048 and Sudoku and things like that you can also make. I could also do worldwide high scores of those games. And so, but I also want to work with indie developers who have games that have been successful, and then we make an edition, the worldwide high score edition, and then everybody would compete on that game.
Well, you could.
We do have a lot of incredibly difficult unnecessarily difficult in gameplay, interrupting mini games in Dream Daddy. I don't say that to dig on the mini games, just that when people come in looking to date a hot dad, they don't necessarily want to play mini golf challenge impossible. But yeah.
But also, your whole game is about scoring with neighborhood dads, right?
It is.
And
It is.
a lot of people doing it are getting high. So I think there's a natural synergy here.
Yeah.
So can you, Leighton, I forget, in Dream Daddy, can you score with multiple dads in
You
one
certainly
playthrough?
can. Actually, can you? I don't know. I have not played it since it came out because it causes a visceral physical stress response in me. But
It doesn't
yeah,
even
I'm
have to
pretty
be
sure
Dream Daddy. You could actually just make an original game too. We could say the maker of Dream Daddy, and then
it's a thought.
Oh.
It's
I
a
don't know.
thought.
I think I created High Score Game Arcade so that I could get people to play my own games.
Yeah, so talk about if you would, the High Score Game Arcade thing, because this is something I've been reading about recently.
Well, a High Score Game Arcade is a website that has daily high score video game contests, and if you win that day, you win money. Like right now, we're doing a contest around a game called Fruits and Dragons, and we give away just $10 a day to whoever wins, and then on October 19th, we're giving away $1,000 who gets a high score that day.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good timing for this
and
episode then. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what it is. That's all it is. It's a daily high score contest around my video game,
Awesome.
and it's free.
That's great. If you are a podcast host who's recently had you on, are you disqualified from getting the $1,000?
No, dude, you just have to win.
Hell yeah.
Good luck.
That's what I like to hear.
Ultimate
Yeah.
gamer Brian Wecht.
Yeah, that's right. That's what
Swooping
I'm known
in.
for.
Elden Ring expert. Elden Ring mansplainer.
I'm not gonna. Oh well, I may not be an expert, but I'm definitely a mansplainer. I'll own that for sure.
A man-to-man splainer. At
What
the
do
very
you?
least.
Well, okay. Well, for context here, Victor, we had a friend who was doing pretty poorly at Elden Ring recently, and
This was like
give
9
him-
months ago, and Brian won't shut
I had
the
to give
fuck
him
up
a
about
few pointers. I was doing this out of a spirit of generosity and camaraderie. It seemed like he didn't know how his controller worked, and so I felt like he needed to understand that there, on a DualSense PlayStation controller, there are multiple. But it's not just the joysticks; like there are multiple buttons. I think he legitimately didn't know how to use them, so I was trying to enhance his gaming experience. And Leighton likes to give me shit about this for, I think, what were your words, Leighton? No reason.
I mean, I have my reasons. You may not be privy to those reasons, but I do have them.
Great. Well, keep them to yourself.
It's fun watching you
Will
guys
do.
fight. This is the best.
That's what we do. Yeah, we have. I mean, mostly we just have people on this show so we can disagree publicly in front of them and then force them to take a side.
Yeah, you're lucky we're not yelling, because sometimes that happens.
Sometimes that happens. Yes.
Sometimes it happens. We only mean it a little bit.
So you have Fruits and Dragons. Is there another one on there? I can't remember. Or you have one that's about to come out?
Fruits and Dragons is the newest game. We have 4 games on the site though. There is Fruits and Dragons. There's Rockin' and Roastin'. There's Break Invaders, which is a game that I made that's half Space Invaders, half Breakout. And then there's also Pong Up, and that was a game that was made because we had a game making contest, and so one person won that contest, and then I took that game and I polished it, and we released it, and it's super popular.
I like Arkanoid was a big game for me as a kid. Very Breakout adjacent. So yeah, I've always been a fan of that style.
Yeah, dude, Break
games.
Invaders is right up your alley.
Great. I've always liked the intro text to Arkanoid. It's the spacecraft Vaus in a space warped by someone. ... And it's the most vague. Like you can't tell if it's just poorly written or if it's a bad translation or what. But I always like the vagueness of in a space warped by someone.
Speaking of video games, video game dialogue, and things that are old hat, all your base are belong to us. You know that phrase, of course. Everybody does
yes,
in the
everybody
video game
knows
world.
it. Yep.
So I'm always on the lookout for stuff that I think should exist, but then nobody's made yet. And so for a while, I wanted to write an entire just like song in that broken English, where it's like aliens come down to Earth, and then, you know, when they open up, they're like, they speak in broken English, and they're just like, all your base are belong to us. Women, children, turn to whatever. And then I felt like that it had to exist somewhere, like, but it currently does not. So it's one of my pet projects in the back of my mind that I want to make.
I mean, it would certainly be a good, you know, I imagine there is a whole generation of children on the internet who have zero familiarity with this.
I agree. It would be confusing, but then it would also be like, there's so many people who would get it immediately. Yeah. And I think that, and whether or not you know it exists, and when you're finding out about it, it's just hilarious either way.
I feel like there are some cool Keith verses that are not too far off from that style anyway. I mean, he gets pretty like out there for some of his stuff.
Is there a Wikipedia page for all your base? And
there must
if not,
be.
have you covered it on WikiListen?
No, we definitely have covered it. We've
definitely
covered it on WikiListen.
Sure.
Will you tell us a little bit about WikiListen?
Yeah, so WikiListen is this is actually art by constraint, because I went to a podcast company and I was like, if I wanted to make a podcast that has the best chance of being a big hit, what would I have to do? And they were like, infotainment, daily, and it has to go deep, you know. And then I was like, ugh, that sounds like a pain to write. But then I was like, wait, can I just read Wikipedia pages? And then WikiListen was born. And it's really fun to just read Wikipedia pages, because we read them and then we rate them on a scale of 1 to 5 at the end. That's actually a new edition. We weren't rating them up until like 3 months ago. But we're all on a scale of 1 to 5. But yeah, it's great, because some Wikipedia pages, I mean, there's Wikipedia pages on everything, and they're and some of them are just amazing, and there's always like interesting facts. One of my favorite Wikipedia pages with like great interesting facts was fork, the Wikipedia page for fork,
like the utensil fork.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of history behind the fork that you just don't even know about, and it's really fun to just like read it all in one place.
And you guys are almost at episode 1,000, right? You'll be there pretty soon.
Yes.
Whoa. 40 days.
Yes, in 40 days we're gonna have 1,000. We're gonna have episode 1,000 party. I don't know exactly what we're doing yet, but we're trying to figure it out right now.
Very
1,000
exciting.
Islands or something like that, right?
We're trying to get Wikimedia, which is a company that owns Wikipedia, to show up at that party, whatever it is.
Dude, that would be the best. Then they can go around being like, it only takes 2 seconds and $2 of your time to donate to Wikipedia.
This morning I donated to Wikipedia. I got the email because, you know, I got however often they send them, and I'll give them $20 a year, something like that. So I donated my $30 to Wikipedia for the year, because it is, you know, it's something I use all the time, and $20.
Same here.
Sure, I'll happily donate.
I've also
$20.
donated to Wikipedia, and I'm a Wikipedia editor. Which is great for the show, because often on the show we'll find typos and then I'll just edit them.
You can just edit them. Yeah.
While the show is happening.
But you can't, the irony being you can't edit your own page, because then it's a conflict of interest, right?
Yes, that is true.
Right. So I have, this is actually, so we were talking about me coming on your show and possibly reading my own Wikipedia page, right?
I love, it's one of my favorite things to do, because then you get to fact check right there and then.
Right. And then someone else who's not me can possibly edit it if they deem that appropriate.
Oh, yes, they can, because they can listen to the episode, and because the episode is available, it can be a source, and you're the source.
Right. Yes. And there are definite errors on my Wikipedia page.
I also noticed there's no mention of Late Night on
that is one
your
of them.
Wikipedia page. There's a mention of Dream Daddy, which is fine.
I agree with this. There are both omissions and errors.
Yeah.
What's the most glaring error?
I think in my various musical projects, it doesn't rank the contributors in terms of talent, and I'd like to, just like to
Right,
correct
of course.
that. There are, let's see, I guess there are a few things that aren't.
Wait a second, Late Night is on
mentioned.
here. It's at the very beginning.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. She whiz. Sorry, I
Where?
didn't mean to interrupt. That's exciting. In
I
the
don't even
top,
see- oh, there it
like
is.
little, summary towards the end. But Late Night with Brian Weck doesn't have its own Wikipedia page, and I also don't have my own Wikipedia page.
He retired in 2015. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna. We're gonna do this on Victor's show. I'm not gonna do this right now.
You should.
I'm not gonna do it right now.
We were at South by Southwest together.
Actually, so I think Danny was there, not me. I think because you said it was part of a comedy shorts thing.
Yes.
I think that was Dan and our director Jim. I think because I remember not being able to go to South by Southwest the year NSP had a thing in there.
What
I
year
think.
would that have been?
Oh, it was a long time ago. I mean, I'd say maybe 2011,
Oh, okay.
something like that.
Oh.
Does that
Oh,
sound
yeah.
about
So then-
right? Is that what you're thinking of around then?
Yeah, because I was there for I had directed a concert film, and it was a comedy concert film, and it was in South by Southwest, and so that was that had to be 2011, right around there.
Yeah. 'Cause
You,
I-
you,
concert
you
film.
have done and are doing so much stuff. How do you
know,
do
it's-
it?
yeah.
Well, the things that I've done, I've stopped doing those, so they're off the bed.
Of course.
So that's easier. Currently, I am just driven because I'm about to break through to a point. This is one of my biggest goals is not even to just be rich or something like that, but my first goal was I just want to break through the point where I can pay myself the same salary that I got paid from those those shows, because
Yeah.
I was making great money. And so I want to get to that point where I can pay myself the same salary. So I'm driven to get to that point. And so I'm just very I take a lot of notes, and I am very organized about how things get done, because I have ADHD and I'm just a crazy person. And unless I write everything down and figure out exactly how things work, I will not do anything right. And I will forget everything.
Valid.
So that's how I do it, as notes.
Inspirational,
Short answer.
honestly.
Yeah.
As
I
a
mean,
fellow crazy person.
I feel like we would be slightly remiss if I think you are the first guest we've ever had on the show who's been in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can you just talk a little bit about End of Days?
Yes.
And what that experience was like?
I tell people, because people are like, is it a good movie? And then I respond by saying, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger shoots the devil with a rocket launcher.
Yes, he does.
So
Yeah.
so that's not a good movie.
But I remember being kind of fascinated by it when it came out, because it's this kind of Christian apocalyptic sort of thing, which is there's something about that mythology that's cool, right?
Yeah,
And-
I mean, I loved that I was in the movie. I
Yeah.
did not see the visual effect of my face breaking until the premiere of the movie. So I laughed. And it was the middle of it was horrific. People were like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "Ha ha ha," because it was my face.
Yeah.
And then at that moment, Arnold Schwarzenegger looked over his shoulder at me, because I was the only one in the theater laughing. He and I met eyes at that moment. We met before they're on set, but that was a moment where I was like, "Oops."
There's some.
I don't know.
mean,
That's kind of the best reaction you could have, though. I would be thrilled.
Yeah, I think they should have shown it to me before then. I think.
If they didn't want you to laugh, they shouldn't have made it so funny.
Yeah. This is a pretty stacked cast, honmarcely.
Yeah,
for this-
it was an amazing cast.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird idea.
It is a weird, but look, Mark Margolis later, who would go on to be in Breaking Bad. CCH Pounder, legend.
I can actually tell you why it's such a stacked cast.
Yeah, please.
Here's why. The original director, his name is Marcus Nispel. He was fired. He was like a hot shot. He was like a huge hot shot, like music video director at the time, and then this was his first big movie. And he got on the movie, and then all these people got on because they're like the hotshot director, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And then he immediately started arguing with like the production company. I think it's like Warner Brothers or whatever. And then he didn't want to show them in dailies. And then so he hired me, and then before I made it to the set, he was gone. And the cinematographer at the time was, what's his name? He's a director now. What's his name?
Wait, the guy who was the cinematographer for End of Days?
Yeah, he's also the director of End of Days now.
Oh, Peter Hyams.
Peter Hyams. And he became the director. And then they, like, what was originally planned for me in the movie did not happen. So I was in one scene. I was supposed to be all over the movie, which is why I have an opening title card in the movie, because I was supposed to be in the entire movie. But I did. Then I ended up in one. I ended up in one scene, and then one like just a shot in another scene. Because they didn't know what to do with me, and they changed the script after Marcus Nispel was fired. Yeah. And then the funniest part though is the DVD commentary, because Peter Hyams just makes shit up about me in the DVD commentary.
Such as?
He's like, yes. Because in the scene where I'm like, going to Robin Tooney, I'm like, the devil's gonna fuck you. He's gonna fuck you. And I'm saying that to Robin Tooney. And then he's like, his voice over the top is like, Victor, yes, he's a classically trained Shakespearean actor. And it's total bullshit. It's total bullshit. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious.
That's
hilarious. I need to. Oh my god, that's
was
so
he doing
funny.
a bit or
no?
Like,
he was lying. It was crazy because when I saw the director's commentary, I was just like, because then that made me go, every director's commentary I've ever heard is bullshit.
Right. Yes. That is really
I was
funny.
Shocked.
What was your experience on Julian Donkey Boy like?
Julian Donkey Boy was fun. It was cold a lot because it was so low budget, and so they don't have great holding for the actors. The Harmony Korine is I think he's really super creative, but he's got his own thing going on, and he is not always concerned about it. He's not always as concerned about, I think, the message he's putting across beyond his main message in the movie. So like fringe characters don't get necessarily treated or portrayed super well, I think.
Yeah.
Which is sense. Why when we have a scene in Julian Donkey Boy where they have a magician come in to work at a magician entertaining blind kids. And then but it's mostly improvised. And I don't know if they left it in the movie where at one point we started saying, why do they have a magician here to entertain blind kids? Like we were just saying that because like the cast was blind, including myself, legally blind. And then that just became a running gag for us. But like, who thought of this?
Yeah. Did you interact much with Herzog on that?
Not at all. No,
not at all. Okay.
I would have loved to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to interact.
Fascinated.
That'd been amazing.
What that guy is like in real life. Like.
Yeah, I want to know too. I can't wait. Yeah. I'm gonna find him someday and just hang out with that dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in terms of like list of people that you would want to get a beer with, Herzog is pretty far up the list.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
I could see him going completely either way, being like the coolest, best hang you've ever had, or everything is stilted and weird. And it could be
I think it would be even more magical if it was stilted and weird. Like I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah.
This is what I would imagine. He would invite you to a party, and then when you arrive, he'd turn around and be like, now my friends and I are going to eat you.
Yeah, and you would be like, yes, cool.
That's how I'm going out.
It's happening for me.
Yeah.
I think we should move on to segments. So our first segment on the show is our pop culture recommendation segment. This is where you get to talk about something you've been enjoying recently, a book, a movie, a video game, many of which we have talked about previously in this particular episode, but maybe we'll talk about some different ones right now. This segment is called What's Poppin', and the theme song goes here.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin'?
I'm trying to think about what I've been enjoying recently that's so great, because it takes me a while to find something that I really dig into. And I don't know that I have really dug into anything in the past. Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of Invincible.
We can
TV
also
show.
go first if you want to think about it.
Yeah, that Invincible is a good one too.
Right. I'm just gonna break down a couple of things that I absolutely love. Invincible, the TV show, because I originally read the comic book. I read every episode of the comic book before it ever came out, and so when the TV show came out, I was really excited about it, and it delivered.
It's really good.
It's a really good TV show. It's so much fun. It's just a great show overall.
I totally agree.
Stinky Cheese Man, one of the best children's book ever written.
Oh yeah, I like
if
Stinky Cheese Man.
Read the Stinky Cheese Man.
Sure.
I love that book so much that I often have an extra copy that I just give to people because it's great, and everyone should read it. And my favorite old show on Netflix is Into the Fucking World, which is based on an indie comic book.
Nice.
I have not watched that yet. Is that the one? I was just talking about this. Is that the person who did Chaos, the new Charlie Covell, I believe is their name? Am I saying that correctly?
No, I don't know if that's the same people, but I know that they did the Into the Fucking World team also did Baby Reindeer.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is the person I'm talking about, Charlie Covell. Yep. I believe so.
The first season of Into the Fucking World is almost just perfect. It's great.
Cool. I didn't realize it was based on another thing.
Yeah, it's based on an indie comic. The funny thing is I went and read the indie comic and I was like, this sucks. because it was one of those comics where I was like, it was one of those things. It's one of those things I'm referring to where it's like, everybody's like, this comic is amazing. And I read the comic and I was like, the show is so much better than the comic. But the comic is okay.
I'd be interested to see what you think. So Charlie Covell, they did a new series series show that's on Netflix called Chaos, which stars Jeff Goldblum as Zeus. So it's like a Greek mythology thing. And not familiar with their other work, I don't know how it stacks up. I thought it was interesting and worth watching, but not.
I did
incredible.
see Chaos. I saw every episode of Chaos, and I thought it's so.
Yes, I thought it had a lot of fun performances, and ultimately did not really add up to that much. Yeah,
and I don't think there's a problem with a show like that. If you're a show that does like wink wink at the camera a lot, like I'm so clever, you better be so clever. Like
that shit drives me crazy.
if you're gonna be wink wink at the camera ever, you better be great. Like it better be so good.
I have a pretty low tolerance for it's like, okay, so Eurydice I always forget how to say her name, is a character, but goes by Riddy. It's like it's a little too cute, right? Like that kind of winking I find kind of annoying in general. And I'm coming off reading a lot of the Percy Jackson books with my daughter, and there's so much of that, Medusa is Auntie M. Like M for Medusa. It's like, come on. And I recognize those books are for children. It's a different thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to stand for
tolerance.
Percy Jackson slander. I understand it, but I have not read them since I was your daughter. Not
They're
since
for
I was
kids.
your daughter's
They're
age.
for
A little
kids.
bit older.
You can get away when that's the first. If you're 10 and that's the first time you see that, you're like, "Fuck, that's clever." Great.
Yeah.
I'm not the target audience. That's fine. Layden, what's popping with you?
All right, what's popping for me is so on Sunday. Whenever I'm in like a horrible thunderstorm mood, I'll be like, oh, movies exist. I should just watch a bunch of movies. And so that's what I did. And being in a terrible mood, I watched 3 movies that I didn't like, that I had high hopes for each of them, which were
yes,
Michael, which is like a Austrian film that everyone was like, oh, it's like Michael Haneke. No, it's fucking not.
I thought you meant the John Travolta is the Angel Michael movie for a second.
No, it's Michael. It's about a guy who keeps a 10-year-old in his basement. So, you know, right up my alley.
Well, that reminds me, I have to make a call.
Just because it's slow doesn't mean, and like fucked up subject matter does not make it like a Michael Haneke movie. Shut the fuck up. Then I watched Sofia Coppola's Virgin Suicides for the first time, which
Never seen it.
As a depressed blonde art bitch, I wanted to like that movie so much more than I did. And like, it's great. Watching it, I was like, if I gave this another try, if I was on like psychedelics, I would probably fucking adore this movie, but I'm not, so it's just okay. Then I watched Shiva Baby, which was cute, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
There's an episode of Broad City that does that bit like a million times better. But, you know, it was a fun little trifle. It had a couple of good bits. Anyway, what's popping for me, that was such a big wind up, is the Federico Fellini short film, Toby Dammit. Have you guys seen or heard of this?
I have not. I don't even know what it is.
It's got Terrence Stamp as the wettest man you've ever seen in your life. It's an adaptation of a Poe short story, and it's like 45 minutes. It's on YouTube. It's Don't Bet the Devil Your Head? ?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's one. Yep.
It's that
Amazing.
one. It's fucking awesome. Toby Dammit is a washed up actor, alcoholic, who goes to Rome to present an awards show. And it's just like crazy shit happens and he's kind of in hell and he keeps seeing the devil, but the devil is a little girl with a creepy face and a white ball. And like Terrence Stamp is so good.
When's it from?
It's from 1968. I really can't recommend it enough. It's fantastic. It was my first Fellini, so now I need to go down a little Fellini hole.
Stamp's pretty young then, right?
Oh, he's a baby. He's got like platinum blonde hair and eyeliner and is so wet. And is hamming it the fuck up. It's amazing.
I can't picture like young Terrence Stamp.
Did you ever see The Collector? That's another young Terrence Stamp. Actually,
no,
is it Terrence Stamp?
I believe the first Terrence Stamp I know is General Zod. I think that's the youngest Terrence Stamp I can get to.
Yes.
He was a very handsome young man. The Collector, which is
pretty hot as Zod. You got to give it to General Zod.
He just has a great face. But yeah, The Collector was 65, and that's the film adaptation of one of my favorite books of all time. The movie is just okay, but he is really, really great in it as the kidnapper. Just good, creepy man. Anyway, that's what's popping for me. Brian.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to check it out.
By
the way, I want to mention Beau is Afraid because I saw that recently and I loved it.
Hell yes.
I have yet to see it. I really want to.
So I watched 2/3 of it and then I had to pause and I had like it like triggered an unrelated toddler meltdown in me. And then the rental period ran out, which was like, you know what? I think this was Ari Aster's intended vision, but I had not laughed so hard in a movie in forever. Like the whole sequence where he's trying to get water to take with the medication and is like Googling side effects of the pill that's going to kill it if you drink water. Funny. Me every single night when I take my medication. Brian, what is popping?
What's popping for me this week? This will be too late for people to come to this show. And I don't know. I don't think I mentioned it yet on the podcast. With our friend and previous guest on the show, JP Hassan, I am opening for Built to Spill.
You what?
This Thursday.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, Brian, what the fuck? Can I come?
I don't know if I can get anyone on a list because I am just part of a band, but we are playing.
You didn't think to mention? I'm knocking everything over on my desk.
I didn't know you liked Built to Spill.
Built to Spill, and Jory's gonna freak the fuck out, dude.
Okay, well, I believe tickets are still available. I'm certain if you can't get a ticket, I can. Well, whatever. We'll talk about it. But,
you can get it. You're in the band. You
I'm in the
band.
I can't, but it's not my band. Yes, I'm sure I can figure something out. But yes, I'm opening for Built to Spill on Thursday, and we're playing as Hasco, Hasco Enjoyments, which is JP's newish music project. And this music, so I've done sax on a few tracks for him, and I love this music. So I've been listening to it to learn the songs we're doing. And it's just awesome. It's very like Badalamenti kind of adjacent sort of stuff. I think, Layden, I think you would really like it. I think our listeners would like it too. The titles are all, they're very JP. One is, it's okay to put ketchup on a hot dog if that's what you like to eat. That's a really great song.
That is very JP.
Another song is the Seattle Mariners are my favorite baseball team. Is
this going to be at the Bellwether?
Like where I forget where it is. So
Great. Well,
that sounds
it's on the
right.
26th.
If Built to Spill, wherever Built to Spill is playing on Thursday, September 26th in Los Angeles, that's where it is.
Yeah.
And Hasco Enjoyments is on the thing.
Damn, those tickets are expensive, bro.
Are they really? It's a shame you don't know anyone in the band.
Yeah, it is a bummer.
I'll see what I can do. Okay.
Please. Regardless, I will come. Brian, that's insane. I'm like genuinely sweating. I fucking love Built to Spill so
I didn't know
much.
this.
Amazing.
I don't know the band very well. I know they're very popular, and
guess you weren't sad in the 90s then, Brian.
90s were pretty good for me. Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah,
So
you've been
that's what's popped for me.
perfect from now on since then.
Hasco Enjoyments, and if you came to the show on the 26th, you can hear him. I think he might be doing some other dates too with them, but not that I'm involved with. So
My sad in the 90s band is Ultravox.
oh, that's a good sad. And then do I have a sad in the 90s band? Portishead, I guess.
That's horny in the 90s though.
Oh.
Yeah, well, same.
It fits.
Yeah.
All
right. Next segment.
Now it's time for our final segment, which is 3 parts gratitude exercise and 1 part petty grousing. The name of this segment is Peaches and Lemons, and the theme song goes right here.
Peaches and lemons. Peaches and lemons.
Wow, it was a theme song. Now we will each start with a lemon, which is a thing that is a minor bummer or annoyance. And I will go first. I think this might have been my lemons at some point during the previous 4 years, but I read a lot of ebooks. I got the newest tiny Kindle that was on sale recently. How is it? Like my last Kindle is probably like 6 or 7 years old. How is it that still the only button on the device that turns off the screen is exactly where your pinky goes if you're holding the fucking Kindle? How have we not moved it a little bit? We can't put that on the top. We're going to put it on the bottom. So if you're holding it anywhere your fingers are, you're going to press the button. What the fuck? This device has one single button. Why would you put it there? Why? That's my lemon.
What kind of Kindle? What? My Kindle doesn't have that button, does it?
Do you have a Kindle nearby? How old's your Kindle?
I have a Kindle Paperwhite. Kindle.
Oh, see, I didn't get the Paperwhite. I got the little tiny one.
I mean, it's tiny. I've also, I'm not gonna hold this up by finding the Kindle. I'll find it.
Sure. If they on the more expensive model have moved the button, that's some dastardly mustache twirling shit.
Don't you throw shade at my Paperwhite.
I will go next with my lemon. My
Please,
lemon is,
yeah.
so we just got back from a trip to the Twin Cities for a wedding. And I got us a hotel because what shall I say? I didn't want to stay with family out there. I felt like we would have more freedom just doing our own thing, me, my wife and daughter. And so we got a hotel room at a Marriott Town Place Suites because it's enough for 3 people. And I got to sleep on the fucking pull-out bed in this suite. And it was bad. It was I don't even know the last time I slept on a spring mattress. And this thing was just incredibly janky and uncomfortable. And then my 10-year-old would walk in every morning and be like, "How'd you sleep, Dad? Was it really comfortable?" And I'm like, "Honey, I'm letting you have the big bed with Mom. Like, what you should say is, thank you, dear Father, for providing for me for all these years and letting me sleep in a comfortable bed. But no, I took the hit and it sucked shit, and I'm still mad about it. That's my
Your daughter sounds like a supervillain.
She
in the
definitely
making.
could be. She's constantly, because she's being raised by two comedy people. She's constantly doing bits and
Oh my
constantly roasting. I would say us, but it's me.
She's a huge gamer too.
And she's a huge gamer. I love this kid. She's very funny, and she's also at an age where occasionally I have to be like, Audrey, that was a little mean. So let's like 20% dial it back, because now you're just being cruel.
Oh my gosh, the kids of super funny parents are just, I don't know. That's amazing.
She called me.
She's going to be amazing in the future. She's going to be such a brainiac.
About 4 months ago, maybe longer now, she called me, quote, a sloppy middle-aged dude.
She sounds great.
Yeah, it was. She was
best.
trash talking during a game of Uno, and it was
my
honestly
gosh.
one of the funniest things I ever heard. And she said it to be funny, and it would it broke up an entire room of adults, and she's just sitting there like, "Fucking gotcha, hell yeah." All right, Victor, do you have a lemon?
Yes, I have so many lemons, but the one that I'm going to focus on is I hate business. I hate it. I hate it. I've been forced to learn, and I hate it. I don't like. There's like so many people that are like very steeped in business, and they have the worst attitudes. Business people have tried to steal from me. Like, ugh, I hate business. I hate business, and I hate business people. It stinks.
I love it. Couldn't agree more.
I like doing my art, and I like making money, and I had to learn how to do business to do that. But in general,
Yes.
business stinks. Ugh, it stinks.
I feel it.
Couldn't
stinks.
couldn't agree more.
Well,
Yes.
now it's time for us each to do three peaches, which are cool, nice, good things, whether they be big or small or minor or existential, whatever. All right, I will go first. First peach for me. I love Werther's Originals. Even better, I love the seasonal variant that's green caramel.
Even better, you love Werther's covers, right? Right.
Yeah, this counts as a Werther's cover band. But there's a green caramel apple variant that's very much like those nasty little lollipops that you can
What?
get.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like caramel and green apple hard candy, and it fucks.
Distressing.
Once we like toggle over to everything is Christmas, I'm hitting all of the, pharmacies or whatever and buying as many of the marked down caramel apple Werther's as I can, because I love that shit. Peach number 2 is that Dead by Daylight has brought back the Chaos Shuffle mode, which I missed the last time they did it, that everybody said was the most fun the game's been in years. But it's back, and it means that everybody's perks are random and shuffled, so you can just, you don't have to worry about meta builds or things being OP. It's just like you get what you get, everybody else gets what they get, and you have fun. So I'm very excited to play that. And then my third peach is that I was in a live recording of Bothering the Band, previous guests on this show, over the weekend at the Hotel Cafe in Los Angeles. And it was very nice to meet them in person and have a good time doing bits. So,
And
those
there was
are my
a
peaches.
famous band person on the show with you as
There
well,
was a
right?
famous band person on that show, Joe from Cold War Kids, which is a band that apparently you've never heard of or listened to a song from, which is shocking to me. Crazy.
I've also never heard of them or listened to a song from them that I know of.
This is Leighton. She said this person's doing the show. She's like, you would definitely know this song. Sent me a song. As far as I can tell, I've never heard that. It was a style of music I recognized as being very like 20 years ago kind of ish, but I had no memory of hearing this song.
They have 2.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
Yeah,
Hang me
and
up to dry.
I'm not one of them. I don't know what to tell you, Leighton.
Listeners,
Like-
please back me up. Anyway, he was very nice and funny, and it was good to meet him and hang out. So yeah, those are my peaches. Who would like to go next?
Victor, do you have any you want to hit us with?
Sure. My peaches are very simple. One, I have great cats. Dizzy, Dizzy and Miles. Dizzy
Nice.
is named for Dizzy Gillespie, and Miles is of course named after Miles Davis. They're fantastic. They're fantastic.
I was hoping
cats.
you were going to say Miles Teller.
No, sorry. With distinct personalities. I was not a cat person until I've had cats, and cats. And now definitely I love my cats. They're great. That's one peach. Number two, I am really fond of my home office, which is where I'm at right now, because it's filled with all my favorite junk, and I love it. Like when I look around, there's so many things that make me happy. I have like so many robots, so many like retro LED things. Just so much.
It's great.
So much stuff that just like makes me super happy, and my whole office is like a nest of it. And so
great.
it's where I spend most of my time because my job is just being creative, and so I'm almost always in my office.
Yep, same.
And my biggest thing is I just have to make my office fun, and I love it. And it's a mess, but I adore the mess, which my office is. So good. And then the other thing is I love playing pool because I had these younger brothers, who one of them who passed away recently, unfortunately. But
I'm sorry.
Before he passed away, many years ago, they were all really good at pool, and I was terrible. And then I practiced every day for 4 years.
Really? Every
Yes.
day?
Every day
Wow.
for 4 years until I beat them one by one. And I currently love pool. And he did not die before I got to beat him. And then my other brother, when I beat him the next day, he was like, "Man, I think I was a little drunk." And I was like, "I don't care if you're blind." I just love playing pool, and it's also great because if you're decent at pool, you can walk into any bar and then make friends.
Right. Yes.
And as
Damn.
me, as a social anxiety, I have the best kind, the crippling kind, and and so like it's an easy thing for me to blend in with other people.
Yeah. That's all. Pool is definitely one of those things where I wish I was better at it, and I guess all it takes is practicing really hard for a long time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's all.
4
it takes
years
is
apparently.
Yeah.
Ryan, what are your
yes.
peaches?
Well, my peaches are also pretty simple. One, we just had a lovely trip, as I mentioned, to Minnesota, to the Twin Cities. Got to see family, got to see friends, went to a wedding. It was great. I genuinely like that area. It's getting, every time I've gone, there's a bit of like, should we just live here? It's affordable. It's nice. The weather sucks, but there's a lot to like out there. So I had a great time, and it's very tempting. Got to see our friend and past guest Bill Childs on the show, who is now one of the people who is texting me Zillow listings to be like, yeah, let's do it.
You're gonna move to Minneapolis?
We are not, but if we leave LA, that's where we would go.
Okay,
I'm from Minneapolis
interesting.
too, so I've been thinking about it myself. Just
It's
saying.
pretty great, right? Like
It is pretty great. You know, I mean, the racism is terrible.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
beyond
and
that, it's great.
yeah, yes. There's definitely stuff to really not like about it, but there's also a lot to like, and yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, as a white person, you get a very different Minneapolis.
I'm sure I do.
So,
yes.
you know, there you go.
Yeah, right.
Get a more fun Minneapolis.
It sure seems that way. Yes, I can proudly say I have never experienced racism in Minneapolis. Yeah, yeah. But I would imagine. I mean, was it when you were there? It was like nakedly racist a bunch of the time, or what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And me, obviously, being an albino, like I was in a lot of situations where I would be standing by my brother who's
Yeah.
not an albino. And then, you know, cops would be like, "Hey, kid," you know, and like
Yeah,
grab
right.
my brother. And, then
And just
I'd
leave
be
you
like,
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was like, it's blatantly racist.
right. Yes.
Oh, Leighton
Yeah.
doesn't seem to like that. Racism.
Yeah. Honestly, famously on this podcast, Leighton is anti-racism. It's true.
Wow,
It's
weird.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
I thought you were cool.
My other peaches, as I briefly mentioned, I am opening for Built to Spill this week. And when I say that's an overstatement. I shouldn't say I am. I was asked to sit in with a friend who is really the correct way to say that.
You're allowed to say that though.
I am opening for Built to Spill with a few other people. So that's true.
And I'm crashing the fuck out of that shit.
My final peach is as I've mentioned many times, I am a puzzle person. I do puzzles and I construct puzzles as a kind of side gig. And right now there are a billion what I would call puzzle hunts that are available and out there right now. They're happening right now. There's one I mentioned, I think previously, by Mark Halpin, who puts out a Labor Day puzzle extravaganza. There's a one, what's it called? The Galactic Puzzle Hunt that just came out. There's other things happening. There's just puzzle hunts left and right now, early fall 2024. And a lot of these are really fucking good. So it's a good time to be solving puzzles in this day and age.
And it's an even better time to be hosting a podcast when you get guests like Victor on. Victor,
That's exactly
thank you
right.
for joining us today. This has
No
been a real
problem.
treat.
Yeah.
I've had such a good time. Speaking of treats, though, I gave myself a treat recently. They have all of the Back to the Futures on Netflix.
Yes.
It's great. It still holds up. It's fun.
They do. They honestly, they pretty much do. I really like. I'm kind of a Back to the Future 2 defender. I think it's pretty fun.
I like Back to the Future too. It's
People
fun.
seem to hate this movie, but I think it's pretty great. I like a lot of it.
I like
that
it.
scene where he's crawling around backstage and everything. I think it's really
Yeah,
it's one of the
great.
most fun scenes in any of the movies.
Yeah, it's almost like vaudeville and
yes.
science fiction mixed.
Yes,
Wow.
and also I love Back to the Future. I think of Back to the Future as the story of how a white man invented rock and roll.
And then,
What's your
tried
dog's
to
name?
fuck his mom.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, that's
your
right.
dog's name?
After trying to fuck his mom, he invented rock and roll. That's right. That's what Back to the Future is about. What's your dog's name, Leighton?
This is Maybe, who crawled up onto my lap at some point, which is why I've been smiling at my lap. But she gets really twitchy by the end of an episode, and so she so badly wants to be out of my arms at this moment. And she started doing this thing where she sticks her tongue out all the time, which is pretty great. But Victor, what would you like to plug if people want to find you and find your stuff? Where should they go?
I'm just plugging. I'm trying to make the world's biggest video game high score contest. So just go play. Just play. Go to High Score Game Arcade and play Fruits and Dragons.
Great, and possibly
Hell
win
yeah.
money.
And yes, and possibly win money. Have a good time. You can win money daily if you are the high score winner. It's free. It's fun. Please go play.
How hard is it to be the high score winner daily? Is that
It
is it a
is-
big challenge, or is it
It
relatively
is not
easy,
as
would you say?
hard. It gets harder every day. It gets harder every day because as more and more people join, it gets harder. But
Right.
we are adding mechanics in so that in the future we can change it. So instead of being the high score winner, it'll be like the fifth highest score and things like that will be picked as the winners. Just
Oh,
for
that's
fun, because we
interesting.
we don't want just people who are great at video games just to be able to sweep everything forever.
Yes,
So,
right.
So we're changing, but right now, I actually feel like anybody who just has the gumption could be the number one person right now.
Great.
Wow.
Cool. All right, listeners, go play those games, and if you have gumption, you can succeed. But was
Great
that? Don't you
closing
have
words,
anything?
Brian.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. If we want to
I
end
thought it
on
was
that,
closing. I thought you were done. I don't know.
No,
yeah,
I
except-
thought you did it for once. I
No,
think,
usually you do it. Okay, and better than that. Go.
No, I don't.
Okay. Bye.
I don't have the gumption for it. Goodbye.
Perfect. Bye, everybody. Leighton Night is produced by Brian Wecht and Leighton Gray. Sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/Leighton Night. Follow us on Twitter at Leighton Night, on Instagram at Leighton_Night, or email us at leightonnight@gmail.com.